Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some of you and peace out to the rest of you. Black heart, black mind, black in again. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. This message is about the assessment of male weakness. In the West, you've been told multiple times that if you are weak, you're going to be walked over, mistreated. And that when you're an adult, this will extend even to women. That they will actually mistreat you long after the men have stopped. That might be true. The men in the West are facing something that men abroad are not always facing. Sometimes, but not all the time. And I want y'all to keep this in mind. One of the good things about cultures wherein the men and women tend to be very nice is that the kindness is not taken as an assumption of weakness. And that's one of the things that I've liked about Southeast Tropical Asia. The men can be very nice, and so can the ladies, but that does not come with an assumption of weakness. So, therefore, the men being kind is not generally taken as him being less of a man. That assumption is not there. I admire that. I'm glad about that. When the men can be nice and not be assumed to be weak, you have a more sustainable culture. Simply because couples can form, which means families can form, and they do. Where you are right now in the West, it is sadly a different story, as you already know. It is true that if you are a weak man, you will be walked over. That's not wrong. It's not, well, we can argue about whether it's right or wrong, but the point I'm making is that that's not unexpected. What I want you men to get out of thinking quickly is that the Wicked Witch of the West has the wherewithal to properly assess your strength or weakness. That's where you must disabuse yourself and unbrainwash yourself. That part is not true. The actual reactions that they might have to weak men, to men that are actually weak, may at least be understandable. Maybe that's not necessary, but it at least is something you could understand. But I'm telling you now, gentlemen, she does not have the wherewithal. She is socialized to take any kindness for weakness. She is socialized to even take any sort of vulnerability, human vulnerability, as weakness. You're not bulletproof. You cannot fly. That's weakness in her eyes. They are looking and judging strength by things like golds and tats and some muscles on your arms and maybe a few felonies on your record. They are so skewed that is how they're trained and told to assess whether you are strong or weak. And even many that are nice themselves, really truly nice people, still have this mindset because that's how they've been taught. Until the day that the bulk of them in the West do not mistake kindness or even exhaustion for weakness, until that day comes, do not let them say to you that the problem is you're weak. Because even if you're one of those men that's listening and you actually are weak, maybe you are, maybe not, but how the hell would you know if you're in an environment wherein the assessment is always skewed, wherein the instruments used to detect weakness are always detecting them and giving them false positives? It's like a COVID test. Okay, maybe you got COVID and you're asymptomatic. Maybe your symptoms are from COVID. Whatever the case is, you cannot use a machine that's always been giving out false positives to determine that you have COVID. It's the same thing here. You listening may be a strong man, a weak man, or in the middle. Most of you, statistically speaking, will be somewhere in the middle. That's the definition of the middle and the average and the norm anyway. Well, gentlemen, guess what? If you're one of those weak men, you're not going to know by staying in the West where everybody's weak. You're going to have to go somewhere where kindness is not mistaken for weakness, and then you can have a more accurate determination and assessment of whether or not you're just a weak character. I hope this helps. Thanks for listening. Oh, and by the way, I am not advocating that you go abroad and start whoremongering. Don't get that twisted. But I am advocating you go abroad and you see how your kindness is mistaken for weakness back home by comparison. Thanks for listening. Black heart, black mind, blackout. Assalamu alaikum. And black, heterosexual, non-select male power just because they don't like it.